بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا ومولانا محمد وبارك وسلم وصلي عليه في كل لمحة ونفس عدد ما وسعه علم الله. I pray inshallah everybody is well and everybody is enjoying the fast in the beautiful month of Ramadan. Inshallah, we're gathered here today. Ramadan. Inshallah, we're gathered here today, inshallah, to study the turuq of Riwayat al-Hafs and all the variant recitations of this qira'ah. So you all should have a copy of this textbook, a guide to the turuq of Hafs and the variant recitations. That's the textbook we're going to be using, inshallah, throughout this week, and studying a riwayah of Hafs like it's never been studied before. It's going to be very interesting, inshallah. I'll give you a few examples so you have an idea of how these turuq affect how we recite the Qur'an, depending on which method or which turuq we follow, which chain that we follow. A common question normally comes from students. It's, for example, the madud. Many Tajweed books will describe a particular mad as 2 haraka, or 3 haraka, or 4 or 5 haraka. So does that mean we recite it as 4? Do we recite it as 5? Is it an estimate? Is it a guess? So these sort of things do affect on how we recite the Qur'an. So there's many other questions that normally come up. A common question that I receive in Surah Al-Ghashiyah, فذكر إنما أنت مذكر لست عليهم بمسيطر. Is it بمسيطر with a صاد, or is it a sin? Why, have they written both? So these are the common questions that you would normally get, and especially those who are reciting Quran, those who are teaching Quran, those who are leading Salah. When you're faced with a question like this, it does get a bit difficult. And the reason why it becomes difficult, because all the Tajweed books don't actually discuss. They just give you a way, you recite like this, and that's it. But they don't actually mention why do we recite it in this manner. For example, وَقِيلَ مَنْ رَاقٍ, the sakt here. Why are we doing the sakt? Can we recite it without the sakt? You'll probably hear certain Qur'a recite it as وَقِيلَ مَرَّاقٍ with the idgham, for example. So these are the things that we're going to be discussing, inshallah, throughout this week. It will be very interesting. You will learn a lot, inshallah, and especially those who are teaching Tajweed, teaching Quran, you will benefit immensely with the will of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. Inshallah, before we study any subject, it's important to know why we study this subject. So let's look at Tajweed for what Tajweed is. Majority of us, those who have studied the Tuhfa Tul Atfal, or the Al-Muqaddimah of Imam Ibn al-Jazari rahimahumullah, would know the reason, would know the benefits of studying Tajweed and why we need to be studying Tajweed. But I would still like to remind everybody the what is Tajweed and why we study Tajweed. So Tajweed literally means to beautify, to make something better, to improve something, to articulate in a beautiful manner, without any takalluf, without any hardship, without any problems. So to beautify something. So when we're referring towards the Quran, we say, we're reciting the Quran with Tajweed, or commonly when you get parents wanting to enroll the child into a madrasa, and they normally say, do you teach Quran with Tajweed? Like there's a various type of Qurans. Is there a Quran without Tajweed? No, there isn't one. So Tajweed is mandatory. It is wajib. So Quran, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the Quran to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it was revealed with Tajweed. Quran came down with Tajweed. And there's two forms in which Tajweed was compiled, or not compiled, but how we received the Tajweed al-Quran. The first being min hayth al-ada, the second being min hayth al-qawa'id. The first, min hayth al-ada, in the mannerism, the way it was portrayed, the way it was recited, the way it was revealed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That is the first way. So min hayth al-ada, in action. So the Prophet ﷺ received the wahi not in a written form. It wasn't in a book form. The Quran wasn't given as a gift, as in a mushaf. It was recited to the Prophet ﷺ, like we're all aware of. The ulama have taught us that Surah Alaq, Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq, was the first ayah recited to the Prophet ﷺ, okay, where revelation began from. So Jibreel alayhi salam recited the ayah to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Iqra, 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 and then Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. So this was recited to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam heard it, then the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam repeated it. Okay, so it was recited with Tajweed, and the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam repeated it with Tajweed also. So this is known as min haythul ada. The second type is min haythul qawa'id. Min haythul qawa'id. This is the second way that Tajweed was passed down. So initially it was min haythul ada to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked the Sahaba, the companions, to write the Quran down. Okay, and they started writing the Quran, and then it was passed down generation until Quran started spreading out to the wider community, to the non-Arabs like ourselves. And Tajweed was a necessity, because we're not Arabs. We don't know how to pronounce certain letters, and how do we pronounce them, what are the rulings, etc. So then came min hayth al-qawa'id. So in min hayth al-qawa'id, these are the rules that have been compiled, Tajweed rules. For example, the rules of ikhfa, the rules of izhar, the rules of madud, mad lazim, how long should it be, what is a ghunna, what is the miqdar, what is the duration of ghunna. So these sort of rules came into place, and many of the ulama and the sahaba passed this knowledge down in the way of science, in the way of a subject, okay, at Tajweed. So you have min haythul qawa'id, and you have min haythul ada. So ada came first, and then came down to qawa'id. And then you have many ulama, from the ulama of Mecca, Medina, Basra, Sham. So as Quran started spreading out, so many of the ulama started writing books on Tajweed. And just probably I would guess, this is a wild guess, we probably have a good 500 to 1,000 books on Tajweed that are written by very old scholars, okay, from like the second, so I would say roughly from 1,200 years ago, 1,100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, 900 years ago, 700 years ago, all the way down till today. There's probably well over 500 to 1,000 books on Tajweed, on different aspects of Tajweed, that have been compiled, and these books have been transmitted down through chains, through generations. And this brings us down all the way to the modern era. And as you're already aware, we have the Tuhfat al-Atfal written in English, Jazariya in English. Okay, now you've got Turuk in English. So these are new books. So they're written in this day and age. So Tajweed has always been part of the Quran. It's nothing that's separate from the Quran. So there's numerous. So what is the purpose of Tajweed? Okay, the purpose of Tajweed is to articulate Quran correctly, to protect its meaning, to protect its message that Allah Subhanahu wa Taala has wished and has wanted us to understand and follow. As you're all aware, once somebody misrecites the Quran, the meaning of the Quran will change, and it'll distort the meaning. I'm not going to go into detail, but as we're all aware, it will change the meaning, the hukm will change, and there's consequences to that. So hence why we're sat here today, inshallah, studying. There's numerous ahadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in regards to sciences of Tajweed, preservation of Tajweed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran in regards to a dhikr, meaning the Quran, and that we reveal the dhikr, wa inna lahu lahafidhun, and indeed we are the protectors of this dhikr, meaning the Quran will never change and will never be deteriorated. It would never vanish. It would never be lost. So the Quran was passed down from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala via Jibreel alayhi salam to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, down to the Sahaba, and it came down, and it's always been protected. Okay, and then today we recite the Quran and we hear the name Imam Āṣim. Okay, Imam Āṣim, the great Qari, the great Imam, we hear about a lot when we study the Quran. Imam Āṣim, if you look at page number 8, it refers towards the Qur'a of Āṣim. So the name was Āṣim. Okay, the father's name Abu Najud Abdullah. Okay, and the mother's name Bahdala. Okay, they passed away in year 127 after Hijri, after the Hijrah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Imam Āṣim, he was a great Imam. Okay, a very great Imam, which many ulama have described beautifully by mentioning that he was one of the most eloquent reciters. He had a very beautiful voice of the Quran, and he had great understanding of Tajweed and ahkam of Tajweed. So Imam Āṣim, he taught the qira of companions. Okay, so it's being protected in each generation. Okay, so once the Sahaba took the Quran, they passed it on to the next generation, and then next generation, etc. So Imam Āṣim, not directly reciting to the companions, he recited to the companions such as Zayd bin Thabit, such as Ubay ibn Ka'b, such as Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, Uthman ibn Affan, and the great Sayyidina Ali radiyallahu ta'ala anhum. So they recited the Quran and they taught the Quran, they received the Quran via these companions. Although Imam Āṣim was not a direct student of the companions, he had learnt and taught the various recitations that were transmitted from them through notable direct students of the companions. Okay, and this then became the Qur'a of Āṣim. Okay, so he became famous as a great teacher and as a great reciter. He was an imam at the top of the leadership of Quranic teachings in Kufa after Abu Abdurrahman as-Sulami. He took his position, meaning as he took the place of Abu Abdurrahman as-Sulami in Kufa, and people journeyed to him. They traveled to him to learn Quran. Okay, and some of the descriptions they've mentioned in regards to him, they mentioned Qala Abu Bakr ibn Ayyash. They mentioned La uhsi ma sami'tu Aba Ishaq as-Sabi'i يقول. So they mentioned that, I cannot recount the number of times that I heard Abu Ishaq mention. And what did he mention? ما رأيت أحدا أقرأ للقرآن من عاصم. Okay, and I've not seen anyone more learned than Āṣim in reciting the Quran. So Imam Āṣim was known to be a great teacher in Qira'at. وقال عبد الله ابن أحمد ابن حنبل سألت أبي عن عاصم. That Abdullah ibn Ahmad asked the father in regards to Imam Āṣim. فقال رجل صالح ثقة خير. Okay, that he was a virtuous, authentic, and a very gracious man. Okay, somebody who possessed great qualities, and these qualities, the ulama and that followed, they don't just recall their knowledge only. It's also important to know that they were very honest, they were very humble, that they were very virtuous, pious, they were very authentic. And the reason being because the Quran is an imana. Okay, so Quran is a imana that has been passed down from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to us today. So it's quite important for us to know that each chain had authentic people, reliable people that would not fabricate, that would not alter the Quran. And this all comes under the ayah, وَإِنَّا لَهُ لَحَافِظُونَ, and we are protectors of the dhikr, the Quran. So this is a short insight to who Imam Āṣim was. Okay, so now Imam Āṣim then had students. Okay, he had many students. Okay, so he chose two individuals, okay, to whom he taught the Quran to, so that the Quran could be preserved and passed down. The two that he chose, okay, one was Hafs and second Shu'bah. Okay, so these are the two students of Imam Āṣim who's on top. Okay, there's more diagrams explaining this. We'll come to that inshallah. So these are known as the riwayah. Okay, riwayah underneath, the ones who are narrating from them. Okay, and each individual will then be described as a rawi. So look at page number 9. They mention, whilst Imam Āṣim had different direct students, two became particularly famous for their accuracy and precision, namely Hafs bin Sulaiman and Shu'bah bin Ayash. So these two became very famous students of Imam Hafs. Okay, each one is considered as a narrator. Now, to have the title of a narrator, it's not like me narrating some hadith or me narrating somebody who had said something before me. This narrator is a great honor, and these are also imams. These are also great scholars. They weren't just like I took Tajweed from him, I took the Quran from him, and I passed it on, and that's all my role, and that's it. No, these were actual great scholars in Qira'at. So each one is considered a narrator or a rawi. Okay, in Arabic language, we're calling them rawi. You'll hear that a lot. Rawi, who's the rawi? I'm reciting in the riwayah of Hafs an Āṣim. So Hafs an Āṣim, Hafs who's recited or reciting according to Imam Āṣim, or who has taken from Imam Āṣim. And their transmissions are known as riwayah of Hafs, riwayah of Shu'bah, respectively. Imam Āṣim taught Hafs and Shu'bah differently, based upon the various ways of reciting that he had learned from his teachers. Thus, the recitation transmitted from Hafs and Shu'bah differs in a small number of places. Imam Ibn al-Jazari writes in Ghayat al-Nihaya, okay, he mentions a story. He mentions روي عن حفص أنه قال قلت لعاصم, that Hafs, the Rawi, the student Hafs, he narrates that I said قلت لعاصم, meaning Imam Āṣim, the Qari, the Imam, إن أبا بكر شعبة, that Abu Bakr, okay, Abu Bakr, meaning Shu'bah, okay, يخالفني, he's going against me, he's differing from me, he's reciting different to me, fil qira'ah, okay, so he's reciting different to me, but he also studied with you. So imagine one teacher, he has two students, and one student is complaining about the other student to the teacher, saying what I am reciting, he's reciting against me, he's my mukhalif. Okay, if I'm reciting in a certain manner, he's reciting different to me. Why is that? Faqal. So the Imam, the teacher, responds, أقرأتك بما أقرأني به أبو عبد الرحمن السلمي عن علي بن أبي طالب عن النبي كريم صلى الله عليه وسلم. They mention that I have taught you that which Abu Abdurrahman as-Sulami, okay, recited to me or taught me, okay, and he learned it from whom? Okay, Ali ibn Abi Talib. So they mention that I have taught you what I learned, okay, from Abu Abdurrahman as-Sulami. And who did he learn from? He learned from his teacher, or he took from who? Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Then they mention, وَأَقْرَأْتُ أَبَا بَكْرٍ, and then I taught, okay, I gave the recitation, okay, to who? Abu Bakr, meaning Shu'bah. بما أقرأني به زر بن حبيش عن عبد الله ibn Mas'ud. Okay, that I taught Abu Bakr what Zir bin Hubaysh taught me from Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. Okay, so that's the way that I taught him, meaning there's a chain for yours and there's also a chain for Shu'bah, meaning Shu'bah is different from Hafs, and both of them are very authentic. So now there's quite a lot we could learn from this story, okay, from this narration that Imam Ibn al-Jazari rahimahumullah has mentioned, that one, that every qira'ah is authentic. Every qira'ah, every variation in recitation, they're all authentic. It's not like one is weak and this is stronger, or this is no good and this is good. Every qira'ah is authentic. Every qira'ah is jajuz. Every qira'ah you can recite your salah in. Every qira'ah, when you recite one letter, you get 10 hasanat. Yeah? Every single qira'ah. There's no difference. If somebody is reciting according to Shu'bah, it doesn't make him any lesser than somebody who's reciting according to Hafs. And somebody is reciting according to Hafs doesn't make him any lesser than somebody reciting according to Shu'bah. So this is quite important to remember, that one doesn't have superiority over the other. Now here, some of you probably be questioning or thinking now, what is qira'ah? What is Qur'an? What is the difference between qira'ah and Qur'an? So simple way to explain between the two. Okay, the simplest way I could describe the two, that the Qur'an is from the beginning Surah Fatiha all the way to Surah An-Nas. Okay, that is all the Qur'an. The whole Qur'an has 114 surah. It has 30 ajza, okay, juz or spara in Urdu or Farsi. So that's known as Qur'an. Okay, all that is Qur'an. So the Qur'an was revealed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam then taught the Qur'an to his companions. Then the Qur'an was taught to their companions, tabi'in, then tabi'in, and then it was passed down. That is known as the Qur'an. What is qira'ah? Qira'ah is the variations within the Qur'an. Okay, how each word or letter is pronounced, what accent, what way, what method. Okay, so there's slight differences between them both. So Quran is the whole revelation, the whole book, and qira'a is juz. Okay, for example, um, uh, Hafs and Shu'bah both recite Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. So there's no difference between the two. Okay, so they're both identical. Okay, so they will differ in certain words. Okay, but on the whole, the whole entire Quran, majority of it, they're identical. They differ on certain words. Okay, the certain parts where they differ on, they are known as qira'ah. Okay, similarly, all the other qira'ah that you have, each one will differ in certain words, and the madud will differ on a certain pronunciation. For example, the ra, are we going to read it as a full matra or as an empty matra? Okay, so for example, alif lam ra, alif lam ra. Okay, so these are different variations. Okay, these are different variations in qira'ah. So it's not the entire Quran they differ on, it's only the certain parts where they differ, inshallah. So then you've got the ikhtilafat. So let's talk a little bit about the ikhtilafat, the differences. So the first type of ikhtilafat you've got, okay, it's where the ikhtilaf is in a letter, okay, or in a word, but the meaning does not change. Okay, so you can write these down as a side note. Number one, that the qira'ah differs from, so one qira'ah differs from the other in written form. Okay, in the wording, so the wording is different, but the meaning doesn't change. So it'll be recited differently, but it will mean the same. For example, in English, somebody says tomato, or somebody says, tomato. Okay, it doesn't really make a difference. Okay, in pronunciation, yes, but the meaning doesn't get altered. The meaning does not change. So, example of that from the Quran, for example, the word as-sirat in Surah Fatiha. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم صراط اهدنا الصراط المستقيم الصراط. So this word is written in Arabic as alif lam and then sad, ra, alif and ta. Okay, in different riwayah, in different qira'ah, it's also written as a sin. The sad is written as a sin, for example, and recited as صراط الذين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. So sin. It's also pronounced as زراط المستقيم. Zain, which looks like a ra with a dot on top. So now it's one word, as-sirat, which means path. It means way. Okay, but can be pronounced three different ways, can be recited three different ways. But each one, the meaning does not alter. The meaning does not change. And all three are correct. Depending on which qira'ah you follow, all three are correct. One way is not superior to the other. Okay, number two. Number two, the second one is where the word is different. The word or letter is different from one qira'ah to another qira'ah. But the meaning also changes. Where the meaning also changes. Then the first example, number 1 was where the word changes but the meaning doesn't change. The second one, where the word changes and the meaning changes. For example, وانظر إلى العظام كيف ننشزها. Okay. وانظر إلى العظام كيف ننشزها. ننشز زو with the زي. ننشزها in Surah Al-Baqarah. So that's one way of pronouncing it. ننشزها. Another way to pronounce this in a different qira'ah is ننشرها with a ra. So instead of a zay, you're pronouncing with the letter ra. So how does that alter? How does that change? Okay. So wanzur and look and see, ila at al-'idham at the bones, kayfa nunshizuha, how we bring them together. How we bring them together. So how we get the bones and we put them together physically. So look how we do this. Yeah. But if somebody recited it in a different qira'ah and used the word nunshiruha, what does that mean? It means how we bring both of them back to life. How we give it life. So the meaning has changed. The first one is nunshizuha, bringing the bones back together. The second one is nunshiruha, how we bring both of them back to life. So even though the meaning it has differed, okay, but the meaning doesn't contradict with each other. There's no contradiction. Okay. So nun shizuha, nun shiruha. So one qira'ah has one particular meaning. The second qira'ah is actually elaborating on the meaning. It's actually giving you a better understanding that bringing the bones back together, okay, and bringing both of them back to life. So together and bringing them back to life. So they both are complementing each other. Okay. So it elaborates on the meaning, but doesn't contradict with one another. Okay. So no qira'ah. You won't find any qira'ah in the Quran. Okay. Any qira'ah that will change the meaning if recited differently, and it contradicts. Okay. Like one says night and another qira'ah says day, or one says yes and one says no. There's no opposites. So every single qira'ah does not change, it does not contradict with another qira'ah. Okay. But the meaning can change in certain words. Okay. So qira'ah, it's the variant recitation, variant pronunciation. Okay. So in the first scenario, where it doesn't affect the meaning. Second scenario, it does affect the meaning, but there's no contradiction. So the third one, example from Surah Al-Ma'idah. فَاغْسِلُوا وُجُوهَكُمْ وَأَيْدِيَكُمْ إِلَى الْمَرَافِقِ. Okay. So فَاغْسِلُوا and wash وُجُوهَكُمْ your faces, وَأَيْدِيَكُمْ and your hands, إِلَى الْمَرَافِقِ up to the elbows, وَامْسَحُوا and wipe. Okay. Wipe what? بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ. Wipe your heads. وأرجلكم إلى الكعبين, and then wash your feet to the Ka'bain, to the ankles. So that's one way of reciting this ayah. So the word وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ, lam has a fatha. So when we're reciting as وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ, okay, we are referring towards the فَغْسِلُوا وَجُوهَكُمْ وَجُوهَكُمْ وَأَيْدِيَكُمْ وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ. Okay, so here it means washing your feet. Washing your feet. But if we recite this with a kasra on the lam, okay, we recited this وَأَرْجُلِكُمْ وَأَرْجُلِكُمْ. We're reciting with a kasra now. If we're reciting with a kasra, then we're basing this on وَامْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ وَأَرْجُلِكُمْ, meaning you wipe your head and you wipe your feet also. So not washing your feet, but wiping your feet. So here the ruling of masa comes in. So you're doing the masa of your head, and then when you're wearing the kufs, the leather socks, you're also wiping your feet. So the meaning changes. The fuqaha take different meanings, and they take fiqh rulings out of the variant qira'at. Okay. So qira'ah doesn't just help. It's not just how the Quran was recited, and yeah, I can recite it in a different way. But the ulama also based different fiqh masail and different opinions from the different ways of recitation and how the meaning changes. So Quran is vast. And the verse again, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that indeed, we reveal this dhikr, and indeed we are the protectors of it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not just protecting Imam Āṣim, okay, and the riwayah of Hafs only. No, He has protected every single Imam and every single Hafs, okay. Each one of the riwayah has been protected, okay, and continued, which I'll elaborate on later. So the key point from here to take away in bold writing, if you want to write down, that no qira'ah will ever contradict another qira'ah in meaning. There will never be two opposite meanings. So they can differ. They can differ from one another in recitation. They can differ with one another in meaning, okay, but also not. So they can differ in meaning. The meaning can be different, but the meaning will either complement, okay, the other meaning, or the last scenario, like here I mentioned, وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ, one is washing and one is wiping, which are both yajuz, and both are permissible. Okay, so you should wash your feet, and if you're wearing leather socks, you can do the masa also. So there's no contradiction in the Quran. So that's the basic difference between the qira'at. So you get an idea that it's not one against another. Okay, so that should answer all the questions. What are the difference between qira'at and why, and how does it affect the meaning, etc. So here, like on page number 9. Okay, like on page number 9, Imam Ibn Jazri rahimahullah, he narrated, okay, that Hafs an Āṣim. So Hafs spoke to Imam Āṣim and he questioned that why is Shu'bah reciting different from me? Okay, why have you taught me something different? Why is he going against me? Why does he have ikhtilafat with me on, why is he mukhtalif, different from me? So they explained to him, okay, فقال أقرأتك بما أقرأني به أبو عبد الرحمن السلمي. So I've given him the recitation that I took from who? Abu Abdullah, okay, as-Sulami. But with you, I've given you a different one. So it's not like his mukhtalif or there's ikhtilafat between you. He has one, you have another. Okay. Inshallah. If you look at page number 10 now, so this is where our subject that we're going to be discussing now. Okay. At-turuq. So turuq, what are turuq? So the riwayah of Hafs has been transmitted by numerous different chains. Okay. Commonly known as turuq. The turuq literally means tariq, way, path. Okay. So which path are we going back to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Okay. So one is that you have the Qur'an, then you have the 10 Imams, and each Imam has 2 rawis underneath. Okay. So you've got, and the Imam that we're following is Imam Hafs, underneath who we have Shu'bah and Hafs. Okay. Even though Imam Shu'bah was before Hafs, but Hafs became famous. Okay. So even though Hafs was before, Shu'bah was before Hafs, but Hafs became famous. So whoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose. The majority of the world recites according to Imam Hafs and Āṣim. Okay. The narrator, Rawi, Hafs, and the Imam Āṣim. Majority of the world. The other famous way of recitation is Warsh an Imam Nafi' al-Madani. Okay. He was the other famous author. Imam Nafi'. Okay. Just like Imam Āṣim. So you got Imam Nafi'. Imam Nafi', he had 2 students also. Okay, so he had Warsh and he had Qalun. Even though Qalun came before Warsh, Warsh became more famous. So those who have traveled to Morocco, okay, I will have heard Moroccan reciters, they will be reciting it different from us. That's another qira'ah, another way. It doesn't contradict our recitation. The meaning does not change, okay, where it's contradicting. Okay, so where the meaning changes, it complements the Quran. Okay, it elaborates the meaning of the Quran, inshallah. So at-turuq, the riwayah of Hafs has been transmitted by numerous different chains, commonly known as at-turuq, okay, and preserved in the plethora of books authored by scholars within those chains. So there's many scholars, okay, who have written books and books, okay, on different variations, okay, and they chain back to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. A single chain is called tariq, okay, tariq. There are certain places in the riwayah of Hafs where words may be recited in various different ways, which are preserved in those books. So now you've got the 10 Imams. So we're looking at Imam Āṣim. Underneath Imam Āṣim, you've got 2, Hafs and Shu'bah. So if you look at the diagram below, you can see now Imam Āṣim, which is your Imam. Underneath you got Shu'bah and you have Hafs. These are your 2 narrators going back to Imam Āṣim. I'll hold the book up so you can see. So there's your Imam. He has 2 narrators. Tamam? So you have Shu'bah, you have Hafs. So we're reciting according to Hafs. Then Hafs, underneath Hafs, then if you look, you've got 2 different ways, 2 different students of Hafs. Okay, these are known as turuq. Okay, 2 of these, then you look beneath them, you have some more, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so let's look at them now. There are 4 major turuq, 4 major chains, okay, for the riwayah of Hafs. Okay, so riwayah of Hafs is divided into 4 main ways. What are these 4 main ways? Number 1, al-Hashimi. Okay, so if you look up at the table, you see number 1 written under al-Hashimi. That's your first way. Then number 2 is Abu Tahir. So these were great scholars. Okay, and these scholars wrote books on Tajweed. Okay, then you have number 3, Al-Fil, and number 4, Zar'an. So these names you need to memorize. Okay, you need to get fluent with these names, inshallah. So Hashimi and Abu Tahir, both of these 2 studied from Al-Ushnani. If you look above these 2, you have Al-Ushnani. Okay. Ushanani studied from who? Ubaid ibn Sabbah. Okay. Ubaid ibn Sabbah taught Al-Ushnani. Ushnani then taught Al-Hashimi and Abu Tahir. Okay. If you look at Fil and Zar'an, both of these two studied from who? Amr ibn Sabbah. Okay. Amr ibn Sabbah, who studied from who? Hafs. And Ubaid studied from who? Also from Hafs. These are your 4 turuq. Now, if you look at the names of Ubaid and Amr that are grayed out on the diagram, their surnames or the second names, As-Sabbah and As-Sabbah, are identical. So some scholars have mentioned that these two were brothers. Some scholars have the opinion that these two were brothers. Okay, but the majority, the Jumhur, say no, they weren't brothers. Okay, the two different people, coincidentally, they both shared the same surname. So you have Ubaid ibn Sabbah and you have Amr, okay, ibn Sabbah. I hope that's making sense. If it doesn't make sense, do mention in the comments. So these are your 4 main turuq. Okay, so let me recap again. So Al-Hashimi and Abu Tahir, the two names, Hashimi, Abu Tahir, both of these two took their Qur'an from Al-Ushnani. Ushnani then took it from Ubaid ibn Sabbah. Ubaid ibn Sabbah to Hafs. Hafs to Imam Āṣim. And Imam Āṣim, then the chain continues back to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay. On the other side, you've got Al-Fil. Al-Fil. Fil literally means an elephant. Okay. And that was the nickname. And they got known by the nickname Al-Fil because they were a very, very big man like me. Okay. So their nickname was Al-Fil. So Fil. And number 4, Zar'an. So these two took from who? Amr. Who did Amr take it from? Hafs. Hafs from Āṣim. Āṣim back to the companions and then back to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So these are known as chains. Okay? Chain. And in the science of Tajweed, we call this tariq. So I am reciting the Quran according to the tariq of Hashimi, or tariq of Abu Tahir, or tariq of Fil, or tariq of Zar'an. These are known as your tariq. Each one then branches into many chains, which are also called turuq. So underneath them, they branch out even further, inshallah, which we're going to be discussing. And all of the various turuq are illustrated with one elaborate diagram in this booklet. A list of all of the books that have, and the authors' names are provided on page number 18. So if you just turn over page number 18. If everyone looks at page number 18. And on page number 18, you should be able to see the diagram. Some of the scholars in these chains, turuq, authored books to preserve what they were taught. The following is a list of the books and the authors from the 52 turuq. 52 different variables of Hafs and Āṣim. 52 different turuq. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 10, not 20, 52. That's humongous. So inshallah, in this course, we're going to be discussing every single one of them. We're going to be learning every single one of them. And there's a very simple trick in learning all of them. It's not difficult at all. And this book, it's a manual to all 52, inshallah. On the left-hand side, you've got the date of passing away. Okay, so 399 Hijri. Okay, after Hijri was who? You see if you look at the name where it's underlined right at the end. Okay, Ibn Ghalboon. Okay, Ibn al-Ghalboon. So Abu al-Hasan Tahir bin Abd al-Mun'im Ibn Ghalboon. So he's going to be known as Ibn Ghalboon. So the name that's been underlined, that's the name you're going to have to remember. So even if you don't remember the entire name, Abu al-Hasan Tahir, bin Abd al-Mun'im, if you don't remember the entire name, at least remember Ibn Ghalboon. Okay? His book's name was At-Tadhkirah. At-Tadhkirah was his book. Okay? That's his book. So you could actually go to Egypt. You could go, there's a book festive in the summer holidays, July. And you could go there and you could buy his book, At-Tadhkirah. And the author would be Ibn Ghalboon. Passed away when? 399 after Hijri. Then you've got 44 after Hijri. You've got somebody called Ad-Dani. Okay? Abu Amr Uthman Ibn Sa'id Ad-Dani. Dani. So underlined, remember that name, Ad-Dani. We're going to be continuously bringing these names again and again and again throughout this week. So by the end of the week, these names should be very, very familiar with you all. So Ibn Ghalboon, Dani. Okay, he wrote 2 books. Okay, the first one, At-Taysir. Second one, Jami' al-Bayan. These are his 2 books. Okay, so At-Taysir, it's in 7 qira'at. Okay, and Jami' al-Bayan also in 7. Underneath him, you've got Al-Maliki. Al-Maliki. Okay, Al-Maliki, his name you can see, Abu Ali Al-Hasan bin Muhammad Al-Baghdadi Al-Maliki. 444 years after Hijri. And look at his name, his book's called Al-Rawdah. Okay, Rawdah. And then you've got, after him, you got Ibn Shita, underlined, Ibn Shita. Okay, another name that you need to memorize and familiarize yourself with. Passed away 445 years after Hijri. The name of the book also At-Tazkar. Okay, so don't mix it with At-Tazkirah. At-Tazkirah was of Ibn Ghalboon and At-Tazkar of Ibn Shita. Okay, then 446 after Hijri, Al-Ahwazi. Al-Ahwazi, he wrote a book, Al-Wajiz. Al-Wajiz. Okay, Al-Ahwazi. Remember and memorize, familiarize yourself with these names. Page number 19. Okay, Ibn Faris. Okay, Abu al-Hasan Ali Ibn Muhammad Ibn Ali. Okay, Ibn Faris al-Khayyat. Okay, al-Baghdadi. 450 years after Hijri, he passed away. And his book is known as Al-Jami'. Al-Jami'. Okay, not Jami' al-Bayan. Okay, so you'll see the difference now. We've underlined Al-Jami'. 465 years after Hijri, passed away Al-Hudhali, Abu al-Qasim Yusuf Ibn Ali Al-Hudhali. Hudhali. Okay, Hudhali, and his book was Al-Kamil. Then 496 years after Hijri, he had Ibn Sawar al-Baghdadi, and his book is Al-Mustanir. Al-Mustanir. Then 514 years after Hijri, Ibn Balima, okay, Ibn Balima, and if you look at his surname, Al-Qayrawani, and his book, Talkhis al-Ibarat. All of these books, you could still buy them. 516 after Hijri. Ibn al-Faham, okay, At-Tajreed, the name At-Tajreed. And last, 521 years after Hijri, Abu al-Izz al-Qalanisi. Abu al-Izz al-Qalanisi. And he had two books that he authored. The first one, Irshad al-Mubtadi. Irshad al-Mubtadi. And second one, Kifayat al-Kubra. Al-Kifayat al-Kubra. So they are on page number 18 and page number 19. We've had a quick look. We skipped a few pages, looked ahead at the names of the ulama, the scholars who are reaping the reward each time you and I recite Qur'an. They were the instrumental, the most important ulama, okay, that we can come to know of, who aided in supporting and preserving the Quran. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, that indeed we have revealed this dhikr, and indeed we are the protectors of it. So it's not just protecting the mushaf that you have on your top shelf in your house. It's not just the mushaf that we go to the masjid and we memorize the Quran, in our hifz class. When we go to send our children to the masjid, go and learn Tajweed and go and learn Quran and memorize Quran. It's not just that Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has preserved. It's not just that book, the mushaf, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has preserved every single qira'ah, then every single riwayah, then every single tariq below has been preserved. Subhanallah. Amazing. So that's on page number 18 and page number 19. Okay. And tomorrow, inshallah, we'll continue from page number 11. We will look at the purpose of the turuq. Okay. We will study more in regards to ahruf, what ahruf are, and look a bit into the chains, inshallah. And then we'll come to page number 17, 18, and 19. And after which, inshallah, we'll dive into the turuq, inshallah. So hopefully tomorrow, inshallah, if everybody can arrive on time at 6:30, inshallah, and we'll try to complete up to page number 21, okay, 2021, by the time within an hour. Page number 20 continues. You got another 4 scholars. We'll talk about them tomorrow, inshallah. Bidhnillah ta'ala. If there's any questions, do let me know. I have no book. The book, we haven't published it ourselves. It's been published through Amazon. So it's only available on Amazon. Amazon print the book and they post out. I know some brothers and sisters couldn't order it from Europe. So they struggle in ordering it from Europe. For them, inshallah, we could try to help them getting the book, posting a copy out to them. But it should be available on Amazon, on all the platforms from all countries. It should be available worldwide. So you can order it. Just type in on Amazon, Turuq of Hafs, it should come up. Turuq of Hafs, it should come up. Or try Zainhood publication, it should come up on Amazon and you can purchase that copy, inshallah. But from tomorrow, inshallah, I'm going to try to have a slide or PDF or some sort of form as we go through the book. For those who don't have a copy just yet, they can order a copy. And this copy, believe in me, it's a lifesaver, especially if you're a teacher and if you're faced with questions and you're not sure of the answers. This is the book. It gives you all the different variations on how to recite the Quran according to the Turuk, the 52 Turuk of Hafs and Āṣim, inshallah. Barakallahu feekum jami'an, inshallah. Until tomorrow, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.